This video was made from the book, titled, Path to Creating Social Welfare in Nigeria, by the author Abraham Lawal, published in 2018. Chapter 1. Letter to my friend, the 17th of March, 2018. Dear comrade, I was very excited when I got your letter dated 16th of December 2017. I hope you and the family are keeping well as I am today. If so, doxology. As an old school, which is how you fondly call me sometimes, I have decided to write to you instead of having a telephone conversation because a man once said that something written down with a faint pencil is better than relying later on human memory to recall conversations between people accurately. There will always be a genuine disagreement about who said what and who did not say what. The entire human memory can be lost in a whim through dementia. But what is already written down by such an individual will remain, except if deliberately erased by somebody or something else. First, let me check with you on your claim of being tolerant and open-minded. Are you open-minded or close-minded? This is the teaser. What will you do if tomorrow you jointly attended a press conference with the Sultan of Sokoto, Emir of Kano, Alafin of Oyo, Ajero of Ijero, Pope Francis, Uni of Ife, Obi of Onitsha, the Olubadan of Ibadan, Pastor Oyedepo, Obong of Calabar, Olu of Wari, the chairman of the Muslim Council of Nigeria, the president of the Christian Council Association of Nigeria, the chairman of the Traditional Religion Association of Nigeria, Pastor Adeboye, Pastor Kumuyi, Pastor Oritsajafor, Pastor Tunde Bakare, imams of all central mosques and other prominent Islamic clerics, and a statement was issued that, our fellow Nigerians, all these years we are very sorry, we have been taking you for a ride, we found out long ago that there is no God. What would you do if you were in this situation as a Nigerian living in Nigeria? Let me give you my take on this. All the people listed above are human beings, and as human beings, people can change their position on issues depending on new information available to them. It is dangerous to overestimate human beings and believe they can do no wrong. Let me tell you, if I were asked the question, does God exist? I'd say yes because I already have a framework, and I'm not a loser. The status of the questionnaire is not essential. I have nothing to lose by believing there is God. As a God believer, I have the benefit of obtaining keys to goodness, love, abundance, eternity, grace, and faith. However, because I'm not a loser, if one dies believing there is no God and now finds that there is God, that person will become a permanent loser, a situation I don't want to find myself in. However, with all the benefits of believing in God while alive, if after death it's proven otherwise, a God believer has lost nothing. Back to your original request in your letter, let me begin by letting you know that London is fine. However, the only thing that is different from living in London and Lagos, Nigeria, is if we discount the huge differences in the infrastructure in both cities, with London being on top. People in London are functional because there is social welfare in place, which has been in existence in London and the whole of Great Britain since 1948. It is a safety net that ensures that no citizen in the country is left without an income. I can assure you that if the British government stops the welfare payments for 3 months today, it will not be long before the whole country will go up in flames. I can understand your frustrations, concerns, and disappointment at governance in Nigeria, and your eagerness to find answers to all the problems. It is very thoughtful of you, and I think you are a good person and a patriotic citizen. My dear friend, before I begin to suggest some solutions to the problems as you requested, let me give you some advice as a friend which I think is weightier, and as such, you should pay attention to it. I think it will help you more in your life journey and career. As the saying goes, with proper arrangement, the devil will see God. Let me share with you some tips that will help you because, when the jungle matures, everyone is a commando. Remember this, it will not always be a champagne party in your life journey. Tips to be kept in the pocket diary of an agent of change. Never fight injustice with active criminality. Do not plant evidence to catch a bad guy. Never collude with an oppressive practice. Never engage in any act of violence, especially one that could cause bodily harm or psychological trauma to others. Always fight injustice with legality, adhering to the law's bounds. 1. There are some fight you will win, there are some fight you will lose. You cannot always be a winner, they say. It is true. Let objectivity, fairness, justice, and solidarity be your watchwords. Always strive to improve your knowledge and skills. Always choose what you read, the social network that you join, and the people you listen to. Listen actively and never accept information at face value, regardless of the source. Be aware of propaganda, fake news, manipulations, and media framing. Anything that is not for common good will promote marginalized disaffection. Never box your opponent to the wall, provide them with escape routes. Don't be broke. If you choose to marry, make sure you protect your spouse and children. Never make them vulnerable economically or physically. Nothing is worth dying for. It is only a fool, a jejune, a very sick in the mind person, who will want to kill or die for God, position, tribe, town, and even a country. Anywhere that you can make a living, raise a family, have a sense of belonging, and feel happy as your home. Remember this, there are 4 cardinal points to human life. You are either working, in a business/a homemaker, or retired. Studying in schools/colleges/universities, or holidaying in a hospital, or living with disability, or being locked up in prison. If you cannot find yourself in any of these categories, you are a dead person. As a teenager in secondary school, I joined a club called the Pace Setters Club. It was a book reading club where members had the opportunity to read books that were outside the school curriculum. Such books include Mills and Boon's, Reader's Digest, James Hardley Chase, etc. Some other books written by Karl Marx and other prominent philosophers were also available. There was one particular book that I read, which not only had an impact on me, but I also struggled with its meaning for the next 25 years of my life. The book got me fired up and at the same time, confused. When I read the book, the only thing that stood out to me then was a statement in the book that says, "The tree of liberty is watered by the blood of tyrants." The title of the book is Petals of Blood, written by Ngugi wa Thiong'o, an African writer from Kenya. As a young boy, I was sensitive to my environment from an early stage, coupled with my own experience of lack, deprivation, and diseases, and my awareness of the vast inequalities and injustices that I witnessed almost daily, despite my young age. When the book was first published, it was initially banned in Kenya, which was the birthplace of the writer. However, we had copies of the book available in Nigeria then. To me, the book was calling for revolution. However, my challenge was that I could not put a finger on who the tyrants were. Because Nigeria was not under colonial rule at the time, the tension was doused in me after reading another book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It was a motivational book that gave me another perspective on life. It was Dale Carnegie's book that kept me in check from extreme radicalism. It helped me to ask a simple question: who do you want to liberate in your struggle? Do you need to get them killed to liberate them? If you get people that you want to liberate killed, then who are you liberating? My dear friend, I got closure on this struggle when I relocated from Nigeria to the Republic of Ireland. I became involved in community activism, where I collaborated with friends to establish the New Ross Intercultural Group, a self-help initiative that addresses the needs of ethnic minorities. This group promotes their social inclusion, community integration, educational and training opportunities, and job placement at local, regional, and national levels. My involvement helped me access further training and skills. It also availed me the opportunity to meet great Irish people, including the then President of Ireland, Mrs. Mary McAleese, and the Irish Prime Minister, Mr. Bertie Hearn. The organization that I helped set up achieved many milestones as outlined in our aims and objectives. However, the learning that I gained from that experience, which will be helpful to you, is that you do not need to embark on any armed struggle to make a change and liberate your people. All you need is the knowledge, the skills, and your passion. Change is something that needs clear goals, objectives, and strategies. The process of achieving change is as necessary as change itself. To succeed in life as an individual, especially if you are not born with silver spoon, you must set yourself a standard in life and make a decision on what is acceptable and what is not, what you can do and what you cannot do. This will form a framework that will always guide you whenever you are faced with challenging situations and making a big decision. Whatever standards and acceptable conduct and behaviors you set for yourself, ensure that you include non-participation or colluding in any criminal activities. A lot of things are going on that are wrong in Nigeria and around the world that sometimes may appear sufficient for someone to go mad. However, there must be patterns to madness. There is a fragile line between one being mad out of frustration and crossing the line to criminality, which can change someone's destiny forever. Injustice is not new, colluding with oppressive practice is also not new, and they are universal. You will find it in both developed and developing nations, including Europe, America, Asia, Africa, and Australia, among other regions. It is everywhere. Be selective in your choice of materials that you read, music that you listen to, films that you watch, and most importantly, the friends that you keep. Be careful of who you listen to and the platform or social network you join. Life is not as simplistic as it may appear. It is more complicated and it should be taken seriously. Do not be caught up in demonstrations or riots. Most of the time it's a waste of time, and sometimes people are unknowingly manipulated into demonstrations without knowing the fundamental objective or the organizer's intentions. Please do not do anything stupid because you want to teach somebody a lesson, or because you think they did something wrong. It is you who will suffer the consequences. It may be more difficult for you later to explain the causes of your actions. Nothing is worth dying for. Do not be broke. Invest in your future. Always improve your skills and get involved in charitable causes. Distance yourself from anything violent. People who are violent or who preach violence, they are bad news. They will drag you down. Most of them cannot go far in life. In the 2018 Nigerian political dispensation, let me tell you something. President Buhari came to power with his anti-corruption campaign, and he did not lie about it. He did not come in as a Cesario. His role as the president is to manage the boundaries. As an anti-corruption president, he is to ensure that nobody in his cabinet is involved in corruption, embezzlement, and misappropriation of public funds. The real delivery of democracy can only be achieved through ambitious politicians with a sincere belief and positivity in either simple or complex ideas, which will enable them to get to their desired political office. The reality always dawns on them later when they get to the office. Thus, negotiations and compromises are an integral part of any democracy. A confident, competent, efficient, and professional civil service is essential to the success of any democracy. It is the right of a civil servant to be political, because they have the right to vote for their candidates during elections, and being political will increase their knowledge base in governance, policy formulation, legislation, and constitutional matters will make them more competent and not become a liability to the state. It will be totally out of order and illegal for a civil servant to be openly partisan, despite understanding their political party affiliation. When a civil servant wants to get partisan, the right thing to do is to resign first from his or her job. A civil servant caught in an open political campaign attending political party meetings should get a sack immediately. It is dangerous because they may become involved in sabotaging the incumbent government's efforts in favor of their own political party. Transfer payment for the boys. This is the financial drainage passage through the legislatures and executives. In Nigeria today, the salaries, remunerations, oversight functions, allowances, and wardrobe allowances for legislators remain shrouded and controversial. In order for Nigeria to save money, bring integrity to the system, and block institutional corruption practices and excessive money pathways, or drainage through payments to the legislature and executive members, necessitate decisive measures to sanitize the system. Specifically, this involves examining payment and allowances for our legislature and executives at both the state and national levels. We need to first focus on what could be likened to what economists call a transfer payment, which some Nigerian legislators and some members of the executive are enjoying to the detriment of the country. If anyone should be getting a transfer payment, it shouldn't be members of the executive or members of the legislature. There is nothing wrong for someone to serve his or her country at different individuals have held various positions. However, their remunerations require forensic analysis. An ex-governor who is on a whooping pension, a retired general from the Army, Navy, or Air Force who is on a whooping retirement, a retired permanent secretary who is on a pension, a teacher who is on a retirement, or anyone who is receiving pension from their previous job, when they become senators, members of assembly, or minister, or any appointment that entitle them to a salary, such people has to choose between receiving salary from their present job, or continue to receive the payment entitlement from their previous jobs. They cannot be taking both. It amounts to fraud and double payment. In the present job, they can keep the allowances so that they will not be out of pocket while receiving entitlement from their previous jobs. If they choose to receive a salary from their present job, the last payment from their prior job has to stop. However, when they finish their present job, they can decide which pension they want to continue to receive, if one is entitled to a pension in their present job. If a governor becomes a senator, he already has money he is receiving from being a past governor. He should not be entitled to a salary as a senator. He should receive whatever allowances other senators are receiving and not a salary. If he chooses to take a salary as a senator, then the money he receives as a former governor should stop. Only those who did not have any pension from their previous engagement should receive salary plus their other entitlements. It will save us a lot of money, it will bring more integrity to the system, and double payments for certain individuals will be avoided, and it will end what could be likened to transfer payments for the boys.